Do you ever feel disorganized in your home? Maybe it's in your office that's comprised with all those paper and digital files that are completely out of control. I've had seasons in my life where I feel like I had everything organized and under control. Probably the same seasons I lived alone or with really tidy housemates. Then I've been in those seasons where I feel like I cannot get on top of anything and everything feels out of control. And again, probably contributes to who I'm living with. Welcome to Holistic Hope, the podcast show that uncovers the secrets to health that you've been searching for. I'm your host, Amanda Cuda. You might have heard of Marie Kondo or the Home Edit, but today I'd like to introduce to you to my friend JoAnn Krall, the sensible organizer. Welcome, JoAnn.
Thank you. I'm excited.
It's so awesome to have you here, JoAnn. And we were just chatting. We met back on Snapchat in June 2016,
It's a long time.
a long time ago. You never know who you're going to meet on platforms. And when I was on Snapchat meeting new people, making connections, especially because I lived in Australia at the time and I would travel to the US, so I was always very interested in making connections with other Americans. And I loved following JoAnn's Snapchat because she was giving me practical tips on how to organize my home. And I joined her beta testing group, Clearing a Pathway to Peace in 2017. And JoAnn, do you know I still refer to that PDF?
Do you? That's awesome. I love hearing that.
Especially because I've moved homes several times before. So when I
Yeah.
move into a new home, I keep you in mind on I'm going to get the organizing right this time.
Oh, I love that. I love that. You were right in the beginning of when I transitioned to my business to all online. So I love that. I love that.
Yes. And for our audience today, can you tell them a bit about yourself, how you got into being this professional organizer?
Yeah. So, it's I can tell it the practical way, or I can tell it the raw way. I One day I was sitting in my office. I was running some businesses. I had two toddlers, and I was looking around my house at the dishes in the sink and the laundry that needed to be done. And we were rushing off to swim lessons and trying to get everything organized and ready for them to go. And it just hit me all at once. And I had to hold it together. I dropped them off at swim lessons. I got in the car and I just broke down because I didn't want to break down in front of them. Not that I'm somebody that doesn't want to show my kids emotions, but they were little itty bitty. So, they don't know what's wrong. You don't want to worry them. And it was at that point I just said, this has to stop. Now, there was a whole series of things that led up to why I got to that point because I was always organized. And I just started doing a bunch of, I don't know if you remember the Fly Lady, if they even had the Fly Lady in Australia, but she was a thing back then where you get emails about organizing. And then I tried all the different methods out there to try and piece things back together. And I found that nothing was working, and I was able to figure out why, and I kind of put my own system together, and I never looked back. And it was at that point I realized that I might be able to help people do this. So I set off to do some free clients and realized that I was natural at figuring out what works for them, because I know what worked for me probably wouldn't work for them, or vice versa. And I just never looked back.
I love that. And people are probably wondering, why do I have an organizer on a holistic health podcast? But I really feel like when our homes are out of control, it really brings that overwhelm and out of control internally. Do you like to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I do believe that organization, I always say that education is the foundation of so much in our life, but before that comes, I think organization is even more important. And it's not that I believe everybody has to be perfectly neat and tidy. I mean, my own podcast is Permission to Be Messy because, being organized isn't about having things neat. It's about knowing where things are, getting to them easily, not struggling. Like I said, I was looking around at the mess and trying to get out the door and frazzled, which then in itself just affects you because it starts to affect you mentally, which then affects you physically. And, it spirals from there. And often when people get into that motion of, constant stress, then the stress creates them to have more clutter and disorganization. So yeah, I do believe, even, like we talk about the home, that's one piece of it, but then also that, your files, your digital and your paper files, and that affects your financial health, which then goes right into your mental health because you start stressing. And again, it's like a big vicious circle.
Oh, yeah. And I'm such a visual person. So if I'm visually looking around my home and I'm like, ah, like I'm just so frazzled and I don't know what to do,
Mm-hmm.
it really does throw me off. And, to be honest, JoAnn, I love that you've transitioned and you're really focusing on paper and digital organization. I think my office is actually the messiest part of my house, which you can't see
Mm.
right now. Thankfully, I have my
Right.
camera set up and there's just piles of mess around
Yeah.
me right now.
Uh,
And it's driving me crazy. And I've been listening to your podcast and I liked how you give those 7 practical steps on how to start reorganizing things. When I was listening to that episode, and I was thinking about how I used to be so digitally organized until one day
mm,
I was on my mum's computer helping her out. And I asked her, where are these files that you need? And she said, oh, they're all in my downloads folder. And something
mm,
switched in me at that point, and I used to have the cleanest download file, and now I have the most chaotic download file. And now I just leave everything in my download files, and I picked up this really bad habit from my mom. So
mm,
I want to give people some practical tips that they can take away from this podcast. And I like to do the
mm-hmm,
plan, do, review format, especially because when I'm trying to teach somebody on how to be healthy in an aspect, and I always say,
mm-hmm,
okay, we got a plan for this. But if I'm trying to
mm,
plan them to create a healthy habit, but they're visually looking around the mess in their home, that's going to be a
mm-hmm.
distraction, which might be great
Yeah.
that they'll get their home organized.
Yeah.
But let's try and get the
Yeah.
home and the health plan for that to be in good shape. So,
Mm-hmm,
where
mm-hmm.
should people start?
Yeah, that's the that's the $1 million question. People always say, where do I start? There's a few ways I look at this and I approach it with people. It really depends on the person, what resonates with them. I'll say, would it make sense for you to start with what's bothering you or hurting you the most? When I say bothering you, is it mentally stressing you out, or is it, say we're talking paper and digital and your finances are a mess because your paper and digital are a mess, and that's costing you money. Does that feel like a good place to start? For some people, the answer is no, no, because it's too much. It's too scary. So then I say, okay, well, does it make sense for you to, and that would be the theory of tackling the difficult thing. And some people will say, yeah, that's easy for me to tackle, or is it, do we start with something easy and give you those quick wins so that you can, keep the momentum going and then leaving all the hard stuff for the end. Sometimes it's a necessity to start with the hard things because, like I said, if people are in a really bad state and they have to get things organized, those are kind of the two thoughts. And when you mentioned about plan, do, and review, not everybody likes to plan when it comes to getting organized. And or some people like to just plan and keep planning and keep planning and never doing the do. So for some people, I say if you like to plan, that's great. We will work on a plan, but we're going to do. But some people are like the planning, they're like, I don't even know where to start planning. So sometimes it's just getting in there and getting started, letting stuff go, because that's the place. we really should start letting go, letting go, letting go.
I love that. I could probably be a self-confessed professional planner.
Mhm.
I'm like,
You're not alone.
can I just plan everything? Oh, I have to do the task now. That
Exactly.
makes it really tricky. So, so
Hmm.
finding out what's bothering them the most. So, is it
Hmm.
their house? Is it that their computer files are just chaotic? Like which area
Hmm.
that you like doing it? I like this, and you know, can I just circle back to the home? I find that my
Hmm.
lounge is like the easiest place to keep clean. And that's like,
Hmm.
but I often just take things out of there and just dump them in my husband's office. He has a trestle
Hmm.
table in there, and that's
Hmm.
just become our junk table. It's probably not the great
Yeah.
organization tool at all.
Hmm.
The kitchen, I actually just, I didn't plan this one. The kitchen, I just got in there and I did it. I just emptied the
Hmm.
whole cupboards out. Again, I just came and bought a couple of trestle tables in, dumped everything on trestle tables, and it was actually
Hmm.
amazing how much expired food we had in there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I, at that stage, I think I'd only been living in America for maybe like 3 years. So it's
Hmm.
fascinating how quickly we accumulate.
Yes.
But yeah, my bedroom, it's okay. It could be a little bit better, but yeah,
Hmm.
the office. So if you were guiding
Yeah.
me right now, maybe it's like the office where I have just piles of stuff. Like there's a pile of paper and books over one section. Right beside me here,
Hmm.
I have another pile of paper and books. So if there's somebody listening that's like me, where would I
Hmm.
start with this?
Yeah. So I usually like if I work virtually now all the time, so I always say it's so much harder for me to just look. I need to see the whole room, but I would say look at the room, decide which corner you want to start in, or even if you're working on your desk, look at your desk and think of it as a space and pick a corner. And don't, like you say with the kitchen, pulling everything out, that's a little bit easier because it's not like it's so much easier to deal with. It's easy to make decisions about food and kitchen tools and things like that. But with an office, you're going to have things that need decisions. Maybe you're holding on to things because you're not sure. Maybe you're holding on to things because you really want them. So really, I always tell go, start with a corner of something, or if you're in a closet, start with a shelf. Start with small increments so that you don't make a big mess. And literally just, work your way around and letting go of things. Not even thinking about any kind of system that's going to happen, not thinking about what you're going to do with things, only making that one decision of finding the things that you can get rid of, whether you're, shredding, recycling, or throwing in the trash or donating, because our offices don't just usually have just office stuff in them.
No.
Like
There's a lot of stuff.
I'm looking around. Yeah. So it's doing that first, getting rid of as much as you possibly can, clearing the space of as much as you can. And then once you've done that, then you go back around and you say, all right, what's in here that needs to go to another room? And setting it aside, not going and putting it in the room as you're working, just getting rid of anything that doesn't need to be in the space. So now you've gotten rid of the trash, you've gotten rid of the things that don't need to be in the space. And then it's, making another pass of, okay, now you're going to come across things that you're like, well, I don't know what to do with these. So maybe you're the person that makes a pile of stuff that you're unsure of. Um, and then there's going to be things that you want to keep 100%. But I think the key is as you're going through and you're making these passes, to not think about what system you're going to try and create. We all want to start with a system, whether it's, I'll use spices as an example. We had our spices in this container for the longest time, and we just bought a spice rack, a tiered spice rack, because that's how I like to have my spices. But you got to know that about yourself first. So it's kind of like you want to make sure that you're not creating systems that are going to just end up not working for you in the end. If you're thinking about your office, it's, oh, I'm going to create this elaborate filing system, and then you find out that you don't even like to file, or the file cabinet's annoying and you never open it. So maybe you should have just been using boxes, or maybe it's just a matter of how you labeled those files. So it's like, it's creating that detailed system first is it should always be last. It should always come last.
That is the best tip because what I try to do, so it was about, let's see, 8 months ago, my husband was out of town for a few days with work. So while he was out of town, I tried to do what I did with the kitchen with my office. And I
Mm,
emptied everything into the hallway. And then I tried to put it back like I would the kitchen, but
mm,
it's not the same.
right.
And so it was just this total chaotic. I think I made it worse by trying to do that. Like I think I literally
Yeah. I mean, that happens. That happens to people. It's like you get to the point where you even like with a closet or something, people will like empty out. Like you mentioned Marie Kondo in the beginning. Many of my clients, if I ever told them to take all your clothes out of your closet, throw them on your bed, and then go find all the other clothes in your house and throw them on your bed, most of them would not be sleeping in their bed for a very long time because
right. Those
it's just
they
overwhelming,
must have
you
slept in
know?
hotels during those shows.
Yeah, I know. I know. I mean, it's, yeah, if you can process it all in one day, that's great, but not everybody has that ability to go through stuff. I mean, it's difficult, you know. So yeah, and creating that mess when trying to organize, there's so many memes out there where you'll see people sitting in their closet going, "Yeah, I decided to do my closet today," and then they're just surrounded by stuff because it's just, you have to be methodical about it and only focus on one step at a time. And that's why, I've often thought about, you talked about my 7-step process. That process is a process that I've always used with paper and digital. And I thought, you know what? There is a way to adapt this to the physical stuff too, on some level. So I've been thinking about that because, for years, I've always said, you've got to start with simplifying. You have to start with simplifying. But what I'm always leaving out is those first steps of, you got to stop bringing stuff in, and so you've got to reduce what you're bringing in. And when you are bringing in stuff, you need to have a place for that to keep it separate from your old backlog of clutter that you need to clean up.
I'm so glad you brought up the clothes. Like I thought, I know at the moment I really need to go through my wardrobe. Stuff has,
Mm-hmm.
I've worn things down. I'm definitely not wearing what's in there. And
Mm-hmm.
I keep thinking I need to do that Marie Kondo method where I go and empty everything out. It is really a whole day process. And realistically, in my
Mm-hmm.
schedule and my time, I don't have that time to dedicate a day or three to
Yeah.
emptying out my wardrobes.
Yeah.
So, how do you what is your method for cleaning out the old clothes and making
Mm-hmm.
space and creating harmony in the wardrobe?
Yeah, it depends on the person. There's a few different ways you can do it. You can, if you're looking at hanging clothes, you can, flip your hangers around the backwards way, and then as you go through the year or 6 months or whatever it is, and as you wear things, you put them back in correctly, and then at the end of whatever time period, you'll see what you haven't worn. So that might help you just make those decisions on those things. You don't have to go through every article. Of course, there's going to be seasonal items that aren't going to apply, or like fancy dresses or things like that that you wear all the time. But that's one way. Another way is to, kind of just work in sections. Do a little bit each day. Look at your closet and say, all right, I'm just going to look at like these 5 items. Next day, and you could separate them somehow, just push them aside, make a little space, or you could put like a card in between them on the rod, just to say, I've looked at these clothes. I'm gonna work my way down, and that would apply to, if you have things in drawers, just work on one drawer a day. And I think part of it is, I think and with the Marie Kondo method, it works for some people, very well because they need to see, for example, if they had t-shirts in one room, another room, and in another room, it would be very hard for them to make decisions based on what's in the one room. So they're in their bedroom, they've got everything, put away, but then they know there's t-shirts folded in a basket somewhere else, or, in storage or whatever. Some people need to see it all together, but then other people are completely stressed out by that because they'll be like, wow, I have, I don't know, 50 t-shirts. What am I doing? And then some people start to feel shame about that because sometimes those shirts have never been worn. They've got tags still on them. They feel guilty. As you can go down this whole rabbit hole of, now I feel bad that I spent the money on that or I wasted. And I never want anyone to feel bad because there's no need. It's giving you information. It's like, oh, I did that in the past. I'm just not going to do it going forward. So I can't feel bad about what I did in the past. I just have to, now I know, and, I have to just try to do better in the future.
I love that. So, we've spoken about the office, we've spoken about the bedroom. We kind of briefly touched on the digital files. I loved when I was listening to your podcast and you were talking about just go ahead and just clean up and delete what you don't want first. Because I always
Mm,
think I have to have this system in place to start with. Where's it gonna
yeah.
go? What's it gonna look like? And have this
Hmm.
end result.
Yeah.
So I feel
Yeah.
like you're really helping me let go of systems today.
Oh, good. Well, to be honest, with everything, whether it's physical stuff, mental stuff, your calendar, your digital, your paper, whatever it is, we can't organize clutter. I mean, we can, but it's exhausting and it's very hard to keep up with and it's unnecessary. So you may find, with certain things, you might get rid of so much that you're like, wow, I don't even really need a system. You need some level of a system, but nothing elaborate. You'd be like, wow, I have so much less. Whereas somebody might have like, 100 categories of files when they start the process, they may get to the end and be like, wow, I've got like four, or just depending on with the way they view things and the way they look at things. And it's all so unique to the individual.
I love that. JoAnn, you've been so helpful today. I really appreciate everything that you've shared with us. And if people want to stay and connect with you longer, I saw on your website you have that Discover the 7 Steps Proven to Help You free guide.
Yeah, and it's still free for however long I keep it free. I'm debating on whether turning that into an actual ebook, but yeah, I have my 7 steps in that free guide. And then that will lead you to, if you prefer to learn other ways through video and all of that.
And your podcast as well. You did mention your podcast briefly.
Yeah.
Remind me what it was called again? Being mess
It's called Permission to Be
Permission
Messy.
to be
Yeah.
messy. I think I really need that permission today. I think when I get off the podcast, I think I'm just going to start with one pile in my room and just
Good.
think,
Yeah.
okay, do I need I feel like I'm a hoarder of paper. Like I need
Mm,
this resource. Like one day this will come in handy.
right.
And
Yeah, that's very common. And depending on when this episode comes out, I'll be filming it. I've been doing a massive digital cleanup of my own files, and I found I keep all of the stuff that I say that I might need this resource or I want to read this resource. I have a file folder on my desktop, and I looked at it the other day, and there's 874 items in there.
wow.
Now, I will look through it quickly to make sure I didn't put anything in there by mistake, but I'm going to record myself just hitting delete. I'm going to just let it go and not worry about it. So,
Are you going to do this as a live video?
oh, maybe I'll do it live.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I
Yeah.
will. That might be good.
Text me. I want to be on that. I
I
want to
will.
see it. I want the inspiration that it can be done just to hit the delete button.
Yeah. It's going to be, and I'm not going to lie, it's going to take me a little bit of, breaths, but I know it's something I have to do because as entrepreneurs, we are information hoarders. We love to grab all of the information that we can possibly grab. And that was one reason why me creating that guide felt a little off for me, because I didn't want people downloading the guide and having it sit in their, 874 file of stuff they want to do. But, the guide is all about helping you let go. And that's been my one place where I was like, well, it's just sitting in a file there, but it isn't harming anybody. It doesn't take up a lot of space on my hard drive. I don't look at it often. But where it is bothering me is it's in the back of my head. Those are open loops. All that's 874 open loops of things that I haven't looked at, don't know if I need them. And on some level it will be very freeing to let that go. So yeah,
Oh,
I'm
yes.
excited.
And when we talk about, keeping our mental health in check and, making sure that we can have clear focus. When I think when I would be meditating, I would just be meditating, going, I open my eyes and there is going to be a mess. I'm coming back into this reality
Mm,
of. So it really does
yeah,
just affect you trying to concentrate on moving forward in your life. And it does, even the digital stuff, it still weighs
yeah,
you down, like you're saying.
it does.
So
It does. Yeah,
I
awesome.
I love the work you do, JoAnn. I am so glad I found
Thank
you
you.
all those years ago. And when I moved into my house here in America, it was so much fun because I got to come here with 4 suitcases, and that was
Mm,
it. And I had to
that's
decide what I
awesome.
was
Yeah.
keeping, what I was leaving behind. But I can tell
Mm-hmm.
you, in the 5 years I've been here, my house looks like I've probably lived here for 30. Like, it's amazing how
Yeah.
quickly we fill space. Oh,
Yeah.
so let's,
Yeah.
I need a tip. How do I
Okay.
be okay to clean and have, I want clear space. I want that minimalism.
Yeah. Yeah. If that's your vision and you want that, it's a daily letting go of things daily and reducing what's coming in. And eventually, because I think what happens is we keep decluttering, and it keeps filling up, filling up, filling up. And it's like I always use this example that I used to be the type of person that had to clean my entire house from top to bottom. I couldn't, I had to dust first and make sure I vacuumed every corner. And I was like, this is so unrealistic, especially, when you're getting older. I mean, but it's just, letting go of that perfectionism and giving yourself permission to be messy is huge. Now it's like, you know what? If I can't do it all at once, there's more time in between. So it's like, all right, just go around and vacuum. You don't have to move the furniture. It's cleaner than it would have been. You know what I mean? Or, you don't have to scrub, everything so much. Wipe it down. It's cleaner than it would have been. So it's like kind of doing a little bit each day. And yeah, keeping that vision. If minimalism, has a different meaning to everybody. Some people think of it as people who, they don't even have shoes. They don't, they do all these crazy things. There's an extreme to it, but minimalism looks different to everybody. It's really just to me, it's really just about having what you need and what you love. That's anything that you have. It's not a I might need it someday. It's I need this right now in my life, and I love this in my life. Those to me the two criterias that, to keep anything.
I love that. JoAnn, thank you for being so inspiring today. If you want to connect with JoAnn, follow her on social media. Definitely recommend listening to her podcast. How many episodes are you up to now?
I think I just did 50. I think I'm recording 51 or 52 today.
I think
So yeah.
I think you can listen to any of her podcasts and get lots of inspiration and permission to be messy, because I I didn't know how much I needed to hear that message today. Go to JoAnn's website. It is JoAnn Krall, which is JoAnnKrall.com. I will put that website in the notes, and from there you can click on her podcast. You can connect with her, maybe join her Sensibly Organized program. I recommend it. Like I said, since 2017, this is now 2024. I still refer to that one
Wow.
PDF that I can find. I'm never deleting that PDF, JoAnn. That's forever safer. Do you have
Good.
any last words for our audience today?
No, well, thank you so much for having me. This was fun. I could talk about organizing all day. But yeah, just my parting words, I think I said it several times in here is, but let go of that perfectionism and always think about reducing what's coming in and chipping away and getting rid of everything. Don't think you have to do it all at once. It doesn't have to be done that way.
Awesome. Thank you so much, JoAnn. And keep an eye out for JoAnn when she goes live to delete that big digital file. I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Stay tuned for more holistic hope tips and tricks to help you be able to move forward in your life.